today we're going to be talking about patient loyalty and how it relates to HIPAA compliance. Okay, and I think a lot of people, when they think of HIPAA, they think of the, let's say, legal requirement, kind of the I have to do it. But do understand that there is really tremendous benefits, not just in patient loyalty, but in employee satisfaction, et cetera, by truly being HIPAA compliant. I'm going to talk a little bit about those impacts today. So I'm the guy speaking today. We make a compliance tracking solution called the Guard. We are endorsed by many different medical associations, over 40 of them across the country, as well as many of the security and IT firms or software firms that you might be working with. In the end, we'd like today to be educational and informative, but feel confident that this is what we do. It's all that we do is the world of compliance. We work with great folks like Reliable to deal with what is the security components or IT-related elements of it. So, okay, we're going to talk a little bit about carrot versus stick. What's your brand, okay? And really, what is a brand and how what you can do online, offline can impact that, how or why HIPAA can impact, and then ultimately, I'm going to give you a couple of basic social media do's and don'ts that you should be using, whether you're a large organization or a small organization. These are some common sense things that you can be doing at your practice tomorrow morning. So, first of all, HIPAA and your online reputation do matter, okay? So think of it as carrot and stick. The stick is it's a federal law. If you don't do it, you can go to jail, you can lose your medical license, and you can get fined a lot of money and lose horrible impacts on your reputation. But if you do it right, okay, you're really reinforcing your brand. Okay, it is, in today's world, patients look more like consumers, so they are doing research on you. Although they may not all understand all the intricacies of HIPAA, they do know that it has something to do with protecting their information, and that when done poorly, things like Anthem Blue Cross breach or the Equifax breach, that this is a very bad thing. Okay, so let's kind of talk about it. So who really controls your brand is not really you. Okay, the online perception of you is what really controls your brand. Okay, and if you look at, let's say, just some of the statistics, 88% of consumers trust online reviews more than they do the reviews from their friends. Okay, and if you take a look at Yelp, believe it or not, some of the top 5 categories are actually not what you think. It's not about the food. It's actually about services being rendered. Okay, so you need to understand that your patients are researching you on the web, and what they find there is either going to help you reinforce the value, or it's going to be held against you. So a couple of other statistics, and this is from U.S. News World Report. 30% of the people, before they do anything, will go online and search, okay? And what I find interesting is that even folks that are happy with their current providers, 55% of the time, they will go online looking at how other people reviewed you. Okay, and I'll talk a little more about some basic do's and don'ts about, you really should be looking at your website, looking at the, Google yourself, see what you get, but I'll go into those specifics as we get a little deeper into this. Okay, so how can social media and HIPAA help you? Well, without a doubt, it can help you acquire new patients. People are doing research online. That's kind of the point I want to make about it. There are some information about what creates patient loyalty, and we'll talk about how those things relate directly to what is HIPAA compliance. Okay, they are worried about this, and think about how much stuff you see in the news, whether it's ransomware, cybersecurity, et cetera. What people are seeing in the news and on social media do impact how they think of you. Okay, so because so many patients are checking your reviewing you online, not having reviews or not providing a function for your patients to review you and give feedback is definitely going to hurt you. Okay, some statistics we've seen are things like having HIPAA compliance listed on your website can improve conversion by 17% or more. Okay, so that you'll find that people do care about this. They are looking for you. They want to see who you are. They want to see what you stand for. They want to see what other people are saying about you on the web. Okay, so let's take a second, and this information is from a Gallup poll. Okay, and it was listed as the five key predictors of patient loyalty. Okay, so what you find is patient loyalty is a little bit of a fickle tool. Okay, first of all, there's their overall satisfaction, the services you provided, et cetera. The next thing they start looking at is the reputation, how other people look at you. Then they start looking at from the perspective of you worked with them, did you satisfy what they were looking for? Okay, did they have a positive experience? Okay, did you resolve an issue in a way that was good? Okay. Next, you start seeing folk like, did when your staff was requested with something, did they follow through with what they requested? Okay. Because what happens when you're following through with what you requested, they feel that you care about them. Now, last part has to do with treating people with dignity and respect. Okay, so those those 5 things, you look at them and say, I don't really get what this has to do with anything. But if you look at Starbucks or Disney or Nordstrom, which are known for their customer service, all of these things are related. Okay, you see a common theme about way people treat either their customers or their patients. But now, what I'm going to use is a little bit of a backdrop as a way that you can increase your brand loyalty, and I can do this in a couple of different ways. Let's talk about Starbucks. Okay, so when you go in, for those of us that are willing to spend an extra $18 for a cup of coffee, why are we willing to do that? Okay, and the examples I gave earlier, which are the experience you had, okay, affect how you feel about that organization, and will you stay? Will you come back? Will you refer to your friends? So if you take, let's say, Starbucks, okay, there are written policies, procedures, and standards of conduct. That barista has very specific rules they have to follow. Okay, there is also somebody, in this case a manager, who is responsible for making sure that those rules are getting followed. Now, in order for everyone to understand the rules, they have to have effective training and education, communication. So, for example, you hear them when they, put your name on the cup and they talk about it down the line. And then ultimately, you may have noticed that almost that everything that's going on at Starbucks, there's a thermometer, there's a timer. They're monitoring and auditing what's going on. Now, if that person who's responsible for monitoring realizes that you're not following the rules, there's also some disciplinary guidelines. Okay, and you might be suspended, you might be fired. Okay, the last thing is people need to respond promptly to detective offenses. If someone does something wrong, they expect you to take corrective action quickly. Okay, so now why do I go through all this? This happens to be what's called the 7 fundamental elements of an effective compliance program per the Office of Inspector General and Health and Human Services. Okay, so these 7 elements, which you've just heard me describe as how Starbucks delivers a great cup of coffee consistently and reliably, is exactly the way that you can use compliance to affect your practice. Okay, so what happens is if you do it well, and these are actually this is the actual guidance, folks. I spoke about it like a cup of coffee, but understand you should have specific policies and procedures. There should be a compliance officer. Do you have training that's effective based on who you are and the size of your organization, etc. Okay, and by the way, the 7 fundamentals is the guidance. It's been around since 1996, and so long as the law has been around. HHS, Health and Human Services, the people who do HIPAA law, and the Office of Inspector General are the folks that actually do the audits. Okay, now, how do people feel about HIPAA? Well, depends how you look at it. Okay, 68% of the people are not confident that you're protecting their medical records. And of the people who have actually been perpetrated by identity theft, 53% of them believe that it was caused by their healthcare provider. That is what made them believe that they are actually failing the audit. Or, I'm sorry, why their breach of their information was corrupted or accessed. Now, so often what we see when we're talking to people is they are doing security well, okay, which is important because security and compliance are really 2 separate things. So you need to be doing both correctly in the law. So if you're doing secure things, you've done security risk assessments, you've put in some of the IT-related functionality, maybe an audit, different remediation plans, policies, procedures, encryption, backup, those kind of things. You're doing you're doing a good job. But the problem is if you're not both secure and compliant, there are other areas that you are going to be failing. Okay, and when we go back to let's say, so one, we use the example patient loyalty. I can put almost the exact same information up there that says employee satisfaction. Hey, I want rules. I want someone to tell me what I'm supposed to do. I don't want to have to try to figure out when someone comes in and a patient is upset what our rules are. Okay, so doing compliant correctly, you assess all of your risks, not just security, but administrative and privacy. This is what the law requires. Okay, you would have had a written identification of your gaps, and you would have documented a set of remediation plans. It's doing the right thing. Okay, now whether the remediation requires security-related items like encryption, backup, secure messaging, monitoring, and auditing, or policies, procedures, and training. All of these are what's required to have, like I said, your patients will be satisfied, your employees will be satisfied. Now, other things that are required in being secure and compliant is your employees. It is not sufficient just to have some staff training once a year. Okay, you really need to be making sure your people understand and are legally agreeing to follow the rules. Lastly, in today's world, you need to have what's called business associate management, okay, which means you have to have your BAs, okay, which is your vendors that serve you. By the way, 30% of the breaches in the United States are caused by the vendors. This is why this is so important. Okay, you need to have a legal agreement and you need to have your technical due diligence. Okay, lastly, incidents occur, folks. Bad things happen to good people. The differentiate is, the thing that separates you is when that happens, did you investigate it? Okay, and once you've done investigating it, did you document, fix the gaps, and report it correctly to the U.S. government? Meaningful breaches are more than 500 people potentially affected. You have 60 days. Less than that, like for example, if there was less than 500 people potentially affected, you got to report that at the end of the year. Okay, all of these things though have to do with how your patients review you. So a couple, let's say, simple examples of where people made mistakes that hopefully don't happen to you, but could. Okay, one is, for example, patient testimonials. Well, a physical therapist, a patient did provide a written, letter of recommendation or testimonial. The problem and why they got in trouble and why they were fined was they decided to put that up on their website. The client had never said, or the patient had never said they could put it on their website. So because they did not have permissible use, use and disclosure documentation, they were fined $25,000 for violating their patient's rights there. Now, press releases. Sounds really good. In this case, it was an organization down in Texas. What they did was they had someone had come in. They were perpetrating fraud. Okay. The mistake that the Texas hospital made was they had put up a press release saying how they had, saved money, someone trying to steal from the U.S. government. The problem was they had listed the person's name and what the procedure they were in for. So they had violated this person's HIPAA rights, their protected health information. So because of that, $2.4 million fine. Filming. This was actually in New York. They were filming a TV show, kind of a reality series thing. And the film folks, the film crews were in the emergency room. The problem is they failed to ask the people standing in the background who were there for healthcare, medical care, if they had permission to put their information up on the on TV. Okay, $2.2 million fine. Breach notifications. Every client I talk to will often say, well, why do we really have to tell anybody when there's a breach or an incident? Understand, if you fail to do that, in this case, it was surgical records. So many of you may be part of ambulatory surgical centers on this call today. This was not a massive HIPAA violation. It was they lost the records for the day, for the week, actually, which procedure had been done with whom at what time. Okay. They didn't think much of it. Unfortunately, they were found later, I believe, in a dumpster. And because of that, the reason for the $475,000 fine was failing to report in the 60 days that's mandated under the law. They knew they had a breach. They didn't tell anybody about it. Online reviews are important. People are going online. They are looking at you, but how do you respond to that? Okay. And one of the things that I hear a lot of people is, they either had the wrong, these are true stories. The patient that wrote this up was writing about a different organization. They just got the names wrong. Okay. They went to what they thought was your Facebook page and they trashed you. Okay. Or what they thought was the correct doctor's office, but it wasn't. Okay. So the question is, just because the patient has put information on there does not mean that you're allowed to respond, okay? And what I mean by respond is you can respond with thank you for your feedback. And think of, let's say, the term from health is minimum necessary. Thank you for your feedback. I'd like very much to discuss the experience you had. Please contact us at the office. Or how can we contact you? Okay? What you can't do is you came in for this procedure, not that procedure. Okay, or you're not our patient, or you're our patient, but we only do this. Okay, so one of the things that a lot of people misunderstand is what is PHI, whether you want to call it personal health information or protected health information. There are 18 identifiers. Now, the mistake that often people make is, oh, well, we just use their first name. Sorry, that's an identifier. We use their record numbers. the picture was just part of their face. We were doing, or it was their torso. We were doing a procedure. Understand, anything that could be construed as something that could be matched back to match the identification of who this person was and what procedure you did is PHI. Okay, so understand, you really have to go, like, for example, this comes up a lot when we're talking to folks in eye care. They're putting up, let's say, something to do with the eye, but understand, if you showed the eye and part of the forehead, part of the nose, and part of the cheek, that may be enough to identify who I am. Okay, so you need to really be sensitive to, if you're just going to show something about the eye, let's say it was an abrasion inside the eye, you need to show just that piece of the picture and blur out the rest, or cut it out, crop it out. So what are some social medias do? You absolutely, on a regular basis, and you should do this in incognito mode. And if you don't know what incognito mode is, ask one of your kids. Sorry, making a joke. Okay, but go on, open up any one of the browsers, and you'll notice that in the browsers they have the ability to go into incognito mode. What that means is, all of the cookies and all of the stuff that identifies who you are isn't going to show up, so that when you query, you are actually going to get what is an unadulterated search of the web. Okay, and the reason why you want to Google your name and your practice name is you want to know what's out there. Okay, now if there's nothing out there, that's bad. Okay, if there's things out there but that are confusing, perhaps you're intermingled information in between you and another medical practice with a similar name. Next thing I highly recommend you do is review your website. Go to your website, go through each page, read it from top to bottom or bottom to top if it just requires you to kind of think of it differently. Ask people you know who are not directly related to you to take a look at your website and give you feedback. You'd be surprised at typos, misrepresentations. Is that really the perception of how you, the look and feel that you want your practice to be giving to folks online? Okay, it is not a bad idea to use experts. Okay, folks, on a whole, I'm a firm believer that you should be able to do most things yourself, but there are some folks, just like in technology, you have Reliable, you have us, for things like compliance, there are people that specialize in social media technology. Last thing, and this was the example I gave you about how people are testimonials, for example, make sure you have all of your documentation updated, your use and disclosure documents, what you are allowed to share of your patient's information. Make sure you have that up to date for each individual thing you have on your website. So, for example, when we put up a testimonial on our website, we have exchanged a document with that person that says, you understand, I'm putting this on my website. I'm going to be using this also in other media. Here's the different ways we're going to be using it. Do you consent to that? Yes, great. If you don't, you run the risk of basically having you're violating their rights and having an investigation, an audit. Okay, some more do's. If someone puts something up on social media, say thank you. Simple as that. Thank you so much for those kind words. Now, you don't need to say thank you so much for those kind words. I hope that your, bunion is feeling better. Okay? Minimum necessary. Do not confirm. Do not get into anything that has to do with PHI or individual identification or the procedures therefore. Do keep your responses anonymous. Keep them neutral, folks. Okay? If you do have complaints, take them offline. If any of you have ever had an actual argument with somebody via text, it does not go well. Okay, and especially if you're in the public eye, it's easily misunderstood and can just get you into trouble. So if someone does say something negative, say thank you very much. We appreciate, customer service or patient service is very important to us. Could you please call our office? I would like to, call and ask for, George or Susie. I'd like to resolve that issue with you. Okay, focus on the positive. Even if they say something negative, you can reinforce, thank you for saying that you weren't happy with the procedure, but you were happy that we were on time for the day. Okay, and I like TripAdvisor. You see a lot of responses from hotel people saying, thank you for telling us about the bed bugs, and we're glad that you liked your pillow. Okay. Back to consent, do not put something on your social media or website if you do not have the patient's permission to do so. And like I said, first name, last initial is not sufficient. A couple things do not, as far as social media goes. Okay, do not email or text a patient without consent. Okay, so if you don't have in your use and disclosure documents the fact that you are allowed to text or communicate them in that way, don't do it. Okay, do not alter content. Okay, so let's say it was a paragraph that was written, so you decided to edit out several of the things that were said in that statement. That's okay, but only if the person who wrote it said it was okay. Okay, now if they didn't, don't change it. Do not repeat or use PHI. So same thing. Just because the patient said, I enjoyed so much my procedure here, whatever procedure it was, do not echo that. And a real world example I can give you is, it was kind of interesting. There was a hospital where one of the heads of the departments came in for a rather sensitive operation. In this case, I believe it was prostate surgery. At the end of the event, he had sent a letter to the head of the department, the nursing department, I think, or the whatever department had handled this procedure, commenting on how great the staff was and how much he appreciated for such a sensitive thing. Unfortunately, their manager was like, oh, thank you, that's so nice. And they posted the letter in the lunchroom. Okay? And these are smart people in healthcare that should know better. Right? Do not post information that confirms identities. Okay, so think about it that might be a statement that they said something about where they live. Don't turn around and support that. Just be neutral, be anonymous, like I said earlier. Okay, do not respond to a patient who's talking about their services. Just because they said I came in for a procedure, don't confirm saying, oh, I'm so glad you enjoyed this, the procedure we performed for you. Be neutral. You can say, I'm sorry. You can say the procedure we performed for you. Do not say, the LASIK surgery we did for you, or the orthoscopic surgery that was performed on you. Couple things. Social media is good for your business. If you're not doing it in today's world, you really need to. Okay. Remember, as far as HIPAA compliance goes, it's a law. You cannot shirk this responsibility. So make sure you're doing it. Being HIPAA compliant is a differentiator. We've seen, for example, if you look at Fitbit, 26% increase in their stock price when they listed they were HIPAA compliant. Okay. People do care. They may not understand the bits and bytes, but they do care about what you're telling them. Okay? So do it. All right, so hopefully you found this. We try to do these relatively concisely. We try not to waste too much of your time. We have lots of, as I was saying, other webinars on our website. We do also have a free security HIPAA compliance checklist that you can download. But before we all leave today, I want to talk about something that Reliable IT and Compliancy Group are participating in. Okay, there is a fantastic executive summit going on in Beaver Creek, Colorado. It's going to be happening next month, the 17th to the 19th. If you're interested, you'll see the URL right there, rithealthcare.com/summit 2018. We're going to be talking about both technology, compliance, online reputation management, the things that are critical from an insider perspective of what's going on in healthcare IT and how you can help that to innovate, increase your revenues, help you save costs, provide better experience for your patients, increase quality of healthcare. So I do hope that you will consider this. It is a 2-day agenda. It's both Thursday and Friday, including some great dinner and entertainment. There's a lot of different speakers that are going to be up there. As I said, we're one of the folks that are going to be speaking on day 2. And we do recognize that you need to get back. So you may want to stay out in Colorado. It's beautiful to extend it. But if not, it concludes at lunchtime on Friday. So you have the option of getting home to your family, or if you would like to stay around and enjoy some of the benefits of being in Colorado. Either way, it's a beautiful resort. I do hope that you folks will join us. I'm going to go back and show the link to the URL. So hopefully, folks, we really appreciate you joining us today. I'll say there is one question that was asked that I do want to answer, and that is, what do I do if my vendor does not sign a BA agreement? Okay, if your vendor does not sign a BA agreement, don't do business with them, okay? Your business associate agreement should be a neutral document that says really some basic things. We all fall under HIPAA law. I'm responsible for what I do. You're responsible for what you do, okay? So if someone is not willing to sign something like that, then they know they're breaking the law, and they are a weakness for you. So and bear in mind, for the medical practices here, you're the one sharing your data, so you're the one who's negligent. Okay, so you do understand you want to take responsibility for that and own that. All right. If there are no other questions, I really appreciate you joining us today. As I said, this is recorded. This will be up on our website, as well as you can go to either Reliable IT's website or ours, and hopefully find lots of other great content. And I do hope that you will join us in Beaver Creek. I think it's going to be a great time. Looking forward to spending some time in the great state of Colorado. All right, everybody. Thank you very much, and a special thanks to Reliable IT for hosting or sponsoring today's webinar. Great organization, and we're honored or excited to be working with them. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.